The idea of nostalgia has been present in humanity since the beginning, but it seems that it is more culturally present than ever, with several online trends showing people in Gen Z doing stuff like wearing clothes that were big in the 2000s, listening to old music, and using old tech. This has led to people theorizing why this has become the case, and that is what we're discussing today in this documentary: nostalgia, the roots of the new future? When people think about those who often have nostalgia, they think of their grandparents reminiscing about life during the war, where people were full of community spirit. But the reality is that people of all ages are having this collective desire to return to a world that they claim was stable, especially Gen Z. When it comes to events that changed the 21st century world, you have a long list to choose from, especially in the 2020s alone, but I would argue that the most monumental event was COVID-19. Within the span of 24 hours, the world changed forever. The most populated time in human history seemed to just evaporate, as everywhere became a ghost town, and people thought it was great, at first. No school, no getting up in the morning, remote working for most. It felt like a real-life Phineas and Ferb episode, where you, as a kid, seemingly had endless free time to do whatever you wanted for a short time. It was like that. However, it quickly went from what seemed like the best time ever to a nightmare. Lockdowns, isolations, stories of people panic buying and stockpiling, believing that it was an apocalypse-like event, furloughing on an industrial scale, and personal losses for all as the lethality of the virus showed up in full unrelenting force. The world truly went into full dystopia, as the whole world, and particularly Gen Z, were experiencing what felt like the end of the world as we know it. The fallout of the COVID pandemic has also made people of working age across the board terrified as to whether they'll be able to secure a job in the first place, let alone stable long-term employment, as the job market still hasn't recovered, with 30 to 40% of all online job listings being fake so companies can look better for their investors and shareholders, being dubbed as ghost jobs. In the US, for example, the average hiring age across the job market was 42, with an average employment experience time being roughly 5 years. This is horrific for those in Gen Z who have just graduated from university, as they are going to be left high and dry because employers aren't interested in degrees anymore, but experience, and that's because most people have degrees than ever before. Again, in the US in 2025, 42.8% of adults aged 25 to 39 have at least a bachelor's degree or higher. University went from something that only the elite went to something that was just expected of you to go to, and that was by systematic design, as it was considered the next logical step after going to high school, but now that system is collapsing as a result of that pathway becoming a complete dead end, as colleges and universities are having to close due to record numbers of low attendees. This unprecedented uncertainty has led to people turning to the past, even as recent as the last decade, but many looking even further back to their childhoods, or even to times they never knew, purely to find some sense of normality and stability, because they don't want to face the complete uncertainty of the future.
What I have here is a selection of technology that is in our house, but it isn't just anyone's tech, it's mine. Mostly. The point of me showing you this is to give a microcosm into how much technology the average 18-year-old, like me, has. Here I have two laptops, an iPhone 13, LG K8, two Xboxes, Series S and Series X, although the Series X isn't actually mine, and an iPad. Just to reiterate, this is all stuff that I own. However, I only use 4 of them. My laptops, iPhone, Xbox Series S. That's it, on a regular basis. Now, I use my Apple MacBook as my main laptop for things such as college work, 3D modeling, voice acting, as well as other personal stuff. And I use my iPhone as a way to communicate with my friends on things like social media, as well as playing games that I can't play on my laptop, as well as filming a lot of my stuff that I do for college on it. Now, that all seems normal, and it is, but I don't use my Xbox for its intended purpose, which is to play games, for the most part. I instead use it as a way to watch things such as YouTube, Netflix, Amazon Prime. So that begs the question, why keep it if you're not going to use it for its intended purpose? Why not just give it away? And the simple answer is, the convenience of having it is too great. I also want to talk about screen time and to give you some perspective on me. Across Monday to Saturday, my average screen time on my iPhone was just under 5 hours, with a peak of 6 hours and 3 minutes on Tuesday. Now, that is just on my iPhone and nothing else. However, when it comes to my MacBook, my average screen time was just over 4 hours, with a peak of 8 hours and 29 minutes on Wednesday. So, just across those two devices, if you add up the averages, I am spending roughly 4.5 hours on digital tech in that week alone. And I would be described as one of the more conservative users of digital tech. Don't believe me?
Ever since I was about 14 years old, after the COVID-19 lockdowns began easing up, something inside me began to change. I began to feel like nothing was ever going to go back to the way it was before 2020. The rapid increase in digital tech usage in everyday life because of remote working and online learning has made us almost become less human in how we behave. Instead of socializing face to face, we're stuck to screens en masse in ways never before seen since the rise of the internet 25 years ago. It is easy to believe that we have become slaves to the machines we invented to serve us, and when you look at the world through that lens, it is perfectly reasonable to want to live in the past, where everything seems so much more simple and real, where, even on the internet, you can meet real people and form real friendships, rather than having a 7 out of 10 chance of just talking to a soulless bot like you do today. I can say that I've also been living in the past with what content I watch being from the 90s to the 2010s, the last time the world felt somewhat real. Watching shows like Pokemon in the modern day have made me understand why people are so fond of those times, because of how being a kid was actually fun, and having boundless adventure with your friends, even if it was just to your local park or grasslands area, where your dreams, no matter how vast, could be achieved no matter how many times you falter along the way. The music I have also been predominantly listening to for the past few years since I started feeling this way is music from the 70s to the 2000s. Queen, Green Day, Busted, Avril Lavigne, Lone Star, The Alfie, Westlife, Nickelback, just to name a few. And that's because the music felt real and done with care. Not just made to sell for a quick buck, but had a genuine message to say through the music that they created. It also feels like songs such as Green Day's American Idiot were trying to warn us about what was going to happen in the future, with much of it becoming true in one form or another just 2 decades after it was released, back in 2004. Life, to focus on more real things such as enjoying nature, spending time with family and your pets more often than spending it through screens, reading books, taking up non-digital hobbies to help bring that desire for imagination back that we so harshly had ripped from us with the mass adoption of AI tools. I do think that we can make it happen. We just have to make sure to have the strong will to try and do so.